The soup didn't spill. It attacked. 1 second I was smiling politely at my mother's 53rd birthday table. The next a wave of scalding beef broth exploded across my face, soaking my hair, sliding down my neck, splattering the white tablecloth like a public execution. The smell of salt and fat filled my nose. My eyes burned. Conversations died mid-sentence. My brother Ryan slammed the empty terrine down so hard the silverware jumped. "You've got 15 minutes, he snarled, loud enough for everyone to hear, to get out of this family. My father stared into his plate like it held answers. My mother didn't move. My little sister Kayla clapped, laughing like she'd just watched her favorite show. I wiped broth from my eyelashes with shaking fingers. My heart wasn't racing. It was cold, calm, surgical. I reached into my bag and felt the familiar weight of the folder. Thick. Heavy. Final. "Fine," I said quietly. My voice didn't crack. 15 minutes from now. Everything you own disappears. That moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was built year by year, slight by slight. I grew up in a creaking wooden house on the banks of South Carolina's Ashley River, humidity clinging to everything like a second skin. Dad worked construction. Mom taught 3rd grade. Money was always tight unless it was for Ryan. New sneakers every year. Private school. A dirt bike at 10. Praise for mediocrity. Kayla sealed the deal when she arrived. The baby, the miracle. The rules changed overnight. Fancy schools. Organic lunches. Standing ovations for dance recitals. Me? I rode the bus. Ate peanut butter sandwiches. Studied alone. The only person who ever really saw me was Grandpa Harold. He lived 20 minutes away in a modest brick house full of old medical journals and memories. While the rest of my family skipped visits, I showed up. Month after month. We drank sweet tea on the patio. He quizzed me on anatomy. Told me I had fire. Told me I mattered. "Family isn't blood," he once said, gripping my arm with trembling fingers. "It's who shows up." I didn't know it then, but that sentence would ruin them. And save me. As I grew older, the distance between me and the rest of my family didn't just widen, it hardened. Ryan learned early that charm paid better than effort. Teachers gave him passes. Dad gave him money. Mum gave him excuses. B- was potential. A missed responsibility was pressure. By 16, a shiny red pickup truck appeared in the driveway like magic. Dad called it a reward for growth. I called it what it was, proof that rules didn't apply to him. Kayla watched and learned. By kindergarten, she wore uniforms stitched with crests I couldn't pronounce. Mum drove her across town every morning, windows down, music loud, while I stood at the bus stop with my backpack in silence. At family dinners, Kayla's stories stopped conversations. Mine barely started them. So I stopped trying. Grandpa never did. While everyone else cancelled plans with vague excuses, I showed up. Through med school. Through residency. Through 12-hour drives and red-eye flights. I sat beside his recliner as oxygen hissed softly, listening to stories about early heart, medications and the patients he'd helped without ever meeting. He cared about details. Precision. Showing up when it mattered. "Skip the details," he'd say, tapping my surgical textbooks, and everything unravels. Ryan skipped birthdays for beach trips. Kayla skipped dinners for cheer practice. Grandpa noticed every empty chair. He never complained, but disappointment lived quietly in his eyes. By my late 20s, the pattern was permanent. Ryan talked big about startups and the next move, living on Dad's checks. Kayla floated through life cushioned by praise and money. And me? I buried myself in operating rooms, stitching hearts together while mine stayed guarded. When Grandpa's health failed, I coordinated his care from Chicago. I called doctors, adjusted meds, Flew down whenever I could. Ryan sent emojis. Kayla posted sympathy hearts. The morning Grandpa died, the sun rose like any other day. No drama, no warnings. Just absence. At the funeral, my family cried for appearances. Ryan checked his phone. Kayla scrolled social media. Afterward, a lawyer handed me a sealed envelope in the parking lot. "For your eyes only," he said. I didn't open it then. I didn't have to. Because deep down I already knew. Grandpa had seen everything. And he had chosen. I opened Grandpa's letter alone in my Chicago apartment. Long after midnight, the city humming outside like a distant heartbeat. The words were precise. Legal, unmistakable. Everything his pharmaceutical shares, the trust, the future of what he'd built was mine. Not split. Not shared. Mine alone. He'd written a personal note at the end. Shaky but firm. "You showed up when it mattered. Do something good with this." I locked the documents away and told no one. Back home, life unraveled for the people who'd always landed softly. Ryan's health tech fantasy collapsed under its own arrogance. Loans piled up. Investors disappeared. Lawsuits followed. The same family that once praised his vision suddenly avoided eye contact. Kayla felt the aftershocks next. Tuition checks bounced. Dorm life vanished. She traded lecture halls for late-night shifts, serving coffee with forced smiles, calling it temporary. They never called me to ask how I was. They only called when they needed something. I stayed quiet, focused. My career exploded in the opposite direction. One night, after a grueling 12-hour surgery, I saved a man no one expected to live. The story went public. Headlines followed. Invitations. Boardrooms whispered my name. I stayed grounded but visible. That visibility changed everything. Ryan called first. Too friendly. Too warm. Mum's birthday. Big party. Everyone wants you there. Kayla chimed in, sugary and rehearsed. Our famous sister. The words tasted wrong. A nurse friend warned me quietly. Estate lawyers. Questions. Money. I listened. I went anyway. I drove 12 hours straight back to Charleston, rehearsing nothing and preparing for everything. The house looked the same. The people didn't. They smiled wider, laughed louder, talked bigger. Ryan bragged about a comeback. Kayla announced Europe plans she couldn't afford. Guests applauded. No one asked how Grandpa had been in his final months. That night, as music drifted through the yard and string lights flickered overhead, Ryan raised the soup tureen like a prop. "Before dessert," he said, grinning, "there's something we need to clear up." And that's when he lied. He said Grandpa left everything to the family. He said I got nothing. And then he threw the soup. What he didn't know was that I'd brought the truth with me. And truth, when timed right, cuts deeper than any revenge. The yard went silent after the soup hit me. Not shocked silence, hungry silence. The kind that waits for blood. Ryan's face was red with satisfaction, chest rising like he'd just won something. Kayla stood beside him, eyes bright, already rehearsing the version of the story she'd tell later. Mum's mouth opened, then closed. Dad looked smaller than I remembered. I set my bag on the table. The folder landed with a sound that didn't just stop the noise, it replaced it. Paper doesn't usually scare people. This paper did. "I'm going to read," I said, calmly. "Exactly what Grandpa wrote." Ryan laughed once, sharp and fake. "You're embarrassing yourself." I opened to the notarized page and began. Each word drained the color from his face. Each sentence tightened the air. Sole beneficiary. Explicit exclusion. Indifference during lifetime. Someone behind me whispered, "Oh my God." Kayla's smile collapsed first. Her eyes flicked to Ryan, then to Mum, then back to me like she was searching for an exit that didn't exist. Ryan tried to speak, but nothing came out. His mouth moved. No sound. I kept going. The trust. The shares. The no contest clause. When I finished, I closed the folder and finally looked up. You didn't lose an inheritance, I said. You opted out. Ryan exploded. He lunged forward, knocking over a chair. You hid this. You lied. No, I replied. I waited. I slid 3 more documents across the table. An IRS audit notice. A debt transfer with my name on it. A foreclosure timeline. His knees buckled when he understood. Kayla grabbed his arm, whispering fast, panicked. Mom started crying not for Grandpa, for herself. Dad stared at the ground like it might swallow him whole. Sirens cut through the night. A neighbor had called it in. The officer looked at my broth-soaked hair, then at Ryan's clenched fists. Is everyone safe? Yes, I said. Now they are. Ryan was warned. Kayla was shaking. The guests were already leaving, eyes wide, phones buzzing. The party was over. The illusion was dead. I gathered my things. As I walked away, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt light. Some families break you slowly. Others hand you the knife and dare you to bleed. They forgot one thing. I'm a surgeon, and I never cut without purpose. By Monday morning, the house was quiet again, but the damage kept moving. Ryan's condo went to auction under grey skies. A red notice taped crooked on the door like a final verdict. His bankruptcy erased most debts, but not the IRS lien. He took a studio above a laundromat, the walls trembling day and night, reminders he couldn't escape. The man who once talked about disrupting healthcare now counted quarters for detergent. Kayla lasted 1 semester after that night. Tuition froze. Credits locked. Dreams of Paris collapsed into coffee-stained aprons and double shifts. Months later, I passed her at an airport kiosk. She handed me a cup without recognizing me at first. When she did, her eyes dropped. I paid cash. Left nothing behind. Mom and Dad sent letters. Apologies soaked in perfume and regret. They said they hadn't known. They said they were sorry. I didn't write back. Some silences are earned. The inheritance transferred cleanly. Grandpa's shares stabilized my future. The trust became something better. I built the Harold Fletcher Cardiac Scholarship, full rides for students from the Low Country who couldn't afford to dream big. The first recipients cried when I called them. Grandpa would have liked that. In the operating room, I was sharper, calmer, untethered. When you stop bleeding from old wounds, you work better. People still ask about my family. I tell them the truth, just not the details. Family, I say, is who shows up. Once, months later, I saw Ryan at a gas station. He looked older, smaller. We locked eyes. He looked away first. That was enough. Revenge didn't give me joy. Justice gave me peace. And peace is the quiet life Grandpa always wanted me to have.